Today we're ranking Uzi albums. Now, this could get a bit controversial, and this is just obviously my opinion, but I don't think you need to listen to anybody else's opinion because my opinion is low-key, honestly, the right opinion. So if you think differently, like, they're low-key wrong, but type shit. I think I'm ready. So without further ado, let's get into me ranking the 9 Uzi albums. Quick disclaimer, this list will only be featuring Uzi's 9 albums that are official releases on Apple Music and Spotify. So the real Uzi will not be on this list because I'm afraid it is not officially released. So just a disclaimer.
Life, there's roadblocks. Don't let nothing stop.
Yes, I know this one's crazy. I know. But you gotta trust me on this. Ieyasu is better than this album. This album is the definition of straight boringness. When I listen to this 24 song album, this song is an hour and 22 minutes long. The only thing I wanted to do was blow my brains out because this album is terrible. This is it's a collab album between Uzi and Future. And honestly, I debated on even not putting this in here because it is a collab album, but it's so bad that I feel like I have to give y'all guys a PSA. There are only 2 songs that are really even worth listening to in this album, and those are Tic Tac and Paddock. What made Lil Uzi Vert make Lullaby? I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, in my opinion, Drinking and Smoking is overrated. The best song off this album is probably Tic Tac, the first song you listen to, and then it's just a bunch of unoriginal bullshit for the rest of the album. If I had to give that album a rating out of 5, that's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna give each album a rating out of 5. This is the 9th album on this list. It is the worst album by far, Baby X Baby Pluto. And if I had to give it a rating, I'm giving it a 1 out of 5 stars. It's terrible. Should have never been made. I wish it was never dropped. I wish it would have just stayed unreleased. I really do. I wish they would have never dropped it because I was hyped for it and it let me down extremely. Now this is where it starts to take a turn. Now we start to see Uzi coming in a little bit at S1. Now I will say, when Eternal Take 2 dropped, I was extremely disappointed. This album, definitely I was super excited for, and it let me down extremely. I will say that, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I mean, looking at it right now, there are not a lot of good songs on this album. What I will say is that there are very good songs on this album. Songs like Chill Bay, Chips and Dip, Not an Option, and Light Year, Not Light Practice. Another song I like was Space High, although his bars in Space High were rather questionable per se. He said something about, I think, and I'll probably pull it up on here. He said something about, when I'm off the Molly, I want to take a shit, I think. Like, Uzi, what are we doing? It's hard for me to rate it because it's full of highs and lows, but this is not the best music in Uzi's catalog and anywhere near it. If I had to give this a rating out of 5, I'd probably give this a 1.5 to 2, probably like 1.5 out of 5. It's not very good. At number 7, we have Uzi's 3rd studio album. This album, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed with it at first. I still a little am. It's a little long. Uzi works better in small sample sizes, but I will say, this album, it grew on me. Personal favorites for me on this album are songs like Patience featuring Don Toliver. I know that's not a big one, but it's one that I like. Werewolf, I think it's a very good one. And then obviously, I mean, I would say the first 5 songs of this album are just, those are just great songs. Flood the Face, Suicide Doors, Crush 'Em, Amped. And then you got songs like I Gotta, All Alone. Again, like Spin Again. Like, this is a solid album. And I even like how he experimented with Nakamura. If you know anything about WWE, Shinsuke. I think this is honestly an overhated album, and if I had to give it a rating out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it a 2.5 to 3 out of 5 stars. Coming in at number 6, we have the original second mixtape dropped by Lil Uzi, Love Is Rage. This is great. This is where we start getting into good Uzi. We have songs from here like Banned from TV, 7 a.m., Enemies, All My Chains, Top. This is where we start getting into good Uzi. Although I will say this is not as good as we've gotten, and this is probably one of his worst albums from his kind of golden era, I would say. I would still say that this is a very good album though, and if I had to give it a rating out of 5 stars, I'd give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's a smaller album, 12 songs with the 43 minutes. Although I will say that this album does fall short in areas like Lamborghini Dream, which I was excited to listen to, but after I listened to it, I was not as excited, as Young Thug's verse was kind of wishy-washy, and so was Uzi's, and that was a little disappointing for me. But so at number 5, I have Lil Uzi Vert versus The World 2. I think highlights off of this album though, and this album is just filled with straight bangers, but my highlights off this album have to be Myron, Lotus, Yasirski, Strawberry Peels, and I would honestly probably say No Auto. Honorable mention has to go to Leader's Feet Nav. Nav, I've never heard of him before, but he killed his verse on this, and I think he did a very good job. Although I will say this album does fall short in areas where I thought it would do better, on songs like What's Up, which I felt were a little less like lackluster. I thought Future would have done better, and I also thought Money Spread feat Young Nudy was a little lackluster, considering Young Nudy's kind of where he's at in his rap career. This is where I start to make some people mad, and I know I'm gonna make some people mad. But at number 4, give me Love Is Rage 2. I honestly, this album is great, and I'm not denying that. Sauce It Up, No Sleep Leak, Neon Guts, Unfazed. And I mean, honestly, this has some of Uzi's best work on it, especially Dark Queen and XR2 Our Life, which are near the end of the album, of the 16-song album. And even the opening songs like 2 and then 444 plus 222. But I think that there are 3 albums that are better than this one. Now, that's not to say that Love Is Rage 2 is a bad album at all. This is a fantastic album in every sense of the word. This is a fantastic album, and I love it. I love it. I can listen to it for days. There is nothing wrong with this album. There are just a couple skips on it. And that's, like, songs like Early 20 Radar just didn't do it for me. And, like, For Real didn't do it for me. Pretty Miami also didn't do it for me. If I had to give it a rating, probably a 4 out of 5. It's a great album. Yes. At number 3, I have Eternal Atake. And this might be a hot take, but this album is one of his best work, and honestly could have easily made it to number 2. I don't understand the hate it gets. This album is full of songs that are just fantastic. Songs like Baby Pluto, Low Main, Silly Watch, Homecoming, Celebration Station. Like, I could go on and on. Prices, Futsal Shuffle, P2, Secure the Bag, Venetia. Like, this album is just full of songs that are good. Honorable mention for me is You Better Move. I just like how catchy it is. Now, for me, this ranks around the same as Love Is Rage 2. It still is a 4 out of 5 to me. Just because there are some weak points in the album, I guess you could say. But looking at this album at face value, I don't have a lot of complaints that I can think of. This is a great overhated album, I think, and people rate it people rate it badly, and I don't understand why. I love the space aesthetic that he went with on this album. I love everything about it. Just his flow on the whole album. People complain that it's mumble rap. I don't understand where the mumble rap allegation comes from. It's a great album, and you can't convince me otherwise. This album was great when it came out, and it still holds up today, and it gets better and better every time I listen to it. At number 2, Lil Uzi Vert versus The World. This 8 out of the 9 songs are straight bangers and have some of the greatest work from Uzi in his career. Like You Was Right, Baby Are You Home, Money Longer, P's and Q's, Canadian Goose, High Roller, Grab the Wheel, Team Rocket. Even Scott, honestly, you could argue this is a 9 for 9 album. I'm personally not a fan of Scott and Ramona, but it's listenable. This is the best, one of his best works, and this is prime Lil Uzi. If I had to give it a rating, it's probably a 4.5 out of 5. Yes, at number 1, I have Give Me the Perfect Love Tape. This is great. This is great. It's fantastic. It's perfect. It really is perfect. It's the definition of perfect. It is from top to bottom, 10 out of 10 album. 10 for 10. 5 out of 5. Whatever metric you want to use, I don't care. This album is perfect. This has some of his best work, if not his best work in his career. And he dropped it the same year as Lil Uzi Vert versus The World. So it makes sense. 2016 was the greatest year that he's ever had. This album, and honestly, if I had to pick 3 off of this album that I like the most, I would go Money Mitch, Sideline Watching, and of course We Ghetto Flowers, but that doesn't even scratch the surface of the album. Like, listing off this track list, this has Do What I Want, Of Course We Ghetto Flowers, Original Uzi, Money Mitch, Sideline Watching, I Can Drive, Your Loss, Erase Your Social, Rhonda, 7 Million Feet Future. And that Feet Future is one of Future's best features of all time that I've ever listened to. 7 Million is one of Uzi's greatest features on a song that he's ever had. And I think that's really what just sets this apart from the rest, is that it really is the perfect love tape. It's perfect. It doesn't get any better than what we have here. This is great. It's fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it.